Hey guys, it's Cynical here, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another discussion video. It's been a very long time since we've done one of these. I think the last one was Series 12 overview, and then before that it was the Series 12 nightly, or the weekly reviews.
So the first impressions.
Yeah, but we're back here today to talk about cliffhangers, and we weren't intending on this.
This was my idea.
It was
Max's
Max's
idea. So it will probably
idea.
be rubbish.
Yeah,
But,
and
cliffhangers. They're an integral part of Doctor Who.
They are indeed.
Yeah.
We don't really have a plan, so if it's a bit messy, then I mean you should be used to it by now. You must have seen my last video, so
yeah, this is going to be a bit of a rather sedate come down after our last few videos, because we've had cabbages, we've had, what was your last
blood
video
sacrifices.
Yeah, we've had blood sacrifices, we've had cabbages, we've had weird psychedelic sounds concocted in labs, we've had speech synthesizers swearing, and now we're going to have philosophical debates on episode endings.
I'm so sorry about everything that's going on the channel recently, but I'd say thank you actually for hitting 200 subscribers as well. Thank you.
Lockdown has had absolutely no negative impacts on our mental well-being.
We're just like this anyway. I mean, but yeah, thanks everyone for the support on the channel. I can't believe the support on the channel recently, because we've just shot up over 200 subscribers, and
well, to be fair, no one had anything better to do, so
yeah, our channel is the lowest of the low, but that's good. But yeah, cliffhangers. As mentioned before, this isn't scripted. We said, oh, let's make some notes, but me being me, I haven't made any notes, which is just like it's what you should do before your video. So I think we should just kick it off by saying,
yeah. So
what do you think is
the
best cliffhanger?
The best cliffhanger. I mean, the two that come to mind, one from the classic, one from the modern run.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that come most immediately to mind, so they must be my favourite. I'm quite fond from the classic run. I'm quite fond of the Caves of Androzani, but it's not the one you think. Everyone says episode 3 is the best one. I'd plump for episode 1. To be fair, all the cliffhangers are really good. I can't
remember the cliffhanger for episode 2 actually.
The episode 2 is just that's probably the weakest one, but even that, the Magma Beast, which was the only part of Androzani that isn't convincing, apparently.
Oh, right.
Is basically coming towards the Doctor hiding behind a rock with its hand outstretched. It's a bit abrupt. I mean, that still has the potential to be a decent episode ending, but it pales in comparison to episode 1. I mean, episode 3 isn't that different to a lot of cliffhangers.
Episode 3 is amazing.
And certainly a lot. Well, yeah, a lot of things happening at once. I remember Jacqueline Rayner writing about it in Doctor Who magazine. Just one of the things happening on its own would have been an effective cliffhanger, but you have 3 things happening at once. The Doctor is dying of spectrotoxemia.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor is piloting a ship and it's about to crash. The Doctor is about to be shot.
Yeah.
I suppose that's quite the combination. But then it kind of, episode 4, it's kind of resolved rather abruptly. The ship just lands.
Funny,
the shots never fired.
Hang on, I don't understand that. He's plummeting at a really heavy speed, and he just lands perfectly, and it's like...
Yeah, that struck me as weird.
That is very weird.
And I think, I know for viewers in 1984, they might have thought, is the Doctor going to regenerate right at the start of episode 4? But you only have a week of that, and then for the rest of eternity, you just view parts 3 and 4 next to each other, and it feels a bit... Which is something I'm going to talk more about in the second half of this that I want to talk about, sort of start a debate on whether cliffhangers have any relevance. But I like episode 1 because, I mean, there's no cheap cop-out of episode 1, and just the way it builds so much more naturally and more slowly, and the tension is so much better, and everything about it is spot on, and... You're not expecting them to fire, but then they do fire.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, I quite like the way that it sort of abruptly cuts from the gunshots. You have the gunshot sounds of the Doctor Who theme.
yeah, I think you're right. That is a very good cliffhanger. K209 is known for its cliffhangers. I would like
Yeah,
to
but
put.
I think episode 1 is better than episode 3, despite what a lot of people say
I
about
probably, I
episode
probably
3 being the
disagree with you
best.
there. Personally, I'd like to put forward. I mean, obviously, I didn't make notes because I'm a fool. But looking at the DVD shelf, I think one that particularly stands out to me is something like Terror of the Vervoids part. Is it part 1? Where all hell's
Where
breaking
Mel
loose.
screams?
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything's
yeah.
blowing up and the guy dies, and then like things are exploding and she's screaming, and her scream gets pitch altered so it goes into the Doctor Who theme. I love that. It's amazing.
Was it pitch altered? I thought she actually sung in tune with it, but
I don't know. I can't remember.
But is that one of the very few cliffhangers in that season that doesn't end on Colin Baker's face?
I think so. I mean,
yeah, because he's not actually there.
yeah. I mean, the Trial of the Time Lord cliffhangers are ridiculous, aren't they? It's
Yeah.
it's like
Actually,
it gets beyond the joke like after a while.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
Thinking about it now, we kind of talked about it in Series 12 reviews, but what do you think of the what cliffhangers from the RTD run?
Oh, I think. Oh, yeah. I honestly I don't have much of an opinion on them, but when I was watching, when the rewatch happened for Journey's End, they someone
Yeah.
I think it was Doctor Blue showed I think he put it on YouTube the original ending for Journey's End, which was another.
Yeah.
That cliffhanger is so strange. It also I'd like to see how that
It's
makes sense
terrible
in
the
the story. How did the Cybermen get in the TARDIS, and why did they just jump up off the floor? It's so weird.
Well, I think the writers tell the final chapter they do talk about that, and the script is revealed for the start of the next Doctor and how that would have been resolved. But I skimmed over that bit honestly because I didn't really give a damn about
Their
it.
next Doctor is
It's
poor.
just it's just the way they. No, the next Doctor's actually okay.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
just
not a massive
I'm
fan.
quite happy with the way Journey's End ended
Yeah.
and the way
Yeah.
the next Doctor started. There was no need for that cliffhanger. That was one of the few times Rusty Davis got it wrong and needed to be put in his place. Feels weird saying that, but just the way the Cybermen stand up in that. But it's weird because it shouldn't work, especially being so off kilter with what's just happened. And yeah, the Timeless Children does kind of miss the point of it. And like I said in Series 12 review, my main problems are more that it's really a David Tennant thing and not a Jodie Whittaker thing, and that it was 10 years ago. They shouldn't be trying to do it now.
Wait, did you
'cause
say?
it's David Tennant thing?
Wait, what?
She did say what?
Did she actually?
at the
Oh
end of
God.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
there's probably a good reason for that. But I actually think Last of the Time Lords is a very good cliffhanger. Because TARDIS crashes into the Titanic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the
I don't-
cliffhanger for Sound of Drums actually, or any of the cliffhangers from that story,
Sound of Drums is really memorable cliffhanger. The Doctor aging and
or the
the
Utopia's one
runaway-
with the Master regenerating, and then that's a very good one.
yeah, I think the Runaway Bride is a bit of a weird one because it's so out of kilter with what has just happened. It kind of almost doesn't work, but it kind of does because it is so out of kilter. But I don't know. I'm just used to that cliffhanger.
What would you say is the worst cliffhanger? Like, because
the
I can
worst
pick out a couple of weird ones, and I mean they're quite obvious. I'm just gonna go and say Death to the Daleks and Dragonfire. Probably two of the most infamous cliffhangers to how strange they are.
Oh, Dragonfire! I'd forgotten about Dragonfire.
When the Doctor just throws himself off a cliff. It's so weird. It's so weird.
I think the world is better for it existing because it.
I love it. I love it though.
It's been a source of great comedy. Same with Death to the Daleks.
Yeah. Stop
episode
that move!
3, and
just tiles.
yeah, the chessboard, and like Robert Shearman said on that documentary.
Yeah. I
the
love
Death to
that
the Daleks
documentary.
cliffhanger.
I remember watching
on the
that
Terror
so
of the
much.
Vervoids DVD, there's a documentary
Now Get
called
Out of
Now
That.
Get Out That, looking
Amazing.
at the cliffhangers and the cliches and the classic tropes.
Honestly, I would really recommend watching that. Honestly, there's loads of nostalgia because I remember watching that loads and loads when I was younger. But
and Shearman really
Amazing.
gives great justifications for the bad cliffhangers
Yeah.
that people don't necessarily like. So Death to the Daleks, he says that he spent all week wondering what that tile could be because it was such an unusual and abrupt cliffhanger,
yeah.
even though it was probably not what was intended to be the cliffhanger.
Even though,
And then
spoilers by the way, but Bilal, the companion in Death to the Daleks, dies like 10 seconds afterwards when he steps on the floor. That would have been a much better cliffhanger. Like, I don't see why they didn't use
maybe.
that.
But the chessboard is such a weird. like I say, the world is better for weird stuff like that existing. And then Robert Sherman says of the Dragonflight episode 1 cliffhanger, he now thinks it's rubbish, but he used to think that it was actually quite nice in a sort of arty-farty kind of way, that it was a cliffhanger turning up for no other reason than the story demanding one, and the sort of literally hanging from a cliff. So it's both literal and metatextual.
Yeah,
so
I remember.
Nice in that kind of postmodern way.
I think it must have been on like UK Gold or the Horror Channel when they used to show season 22 stories. Now obviously they're 45 minutes long and they have to break them up into 25-minute episodes, and some of the cliffhangers are so funny.
Yeah, the edits are weird.
I can't remember
it's
a
like,
particular one, but
I know because I was watching Revelation of the Daleks the other day, and I like the continuity compilations, and they have the edits on that. First of all, they use the wrong font for the title sequences.
right.
It's like this really cheap Arial font.
Okay.
I mean, it's still outlined, but it's still cheap Arial. And then, like, the cliffhangers are like sort of halfway through part 1, where they're walking through the catacombs, and then it's suddenly like Daleks, which kind of works. And then part 3 is the Doctor communicating to Perry and looking straight down the camera. Get back to the TARDIS, but no questions. You're in great danger.
Do you know,
the screen comes up quite abruptly.
You doing the ending for part 1 there. I really want someone to edit that sound clip over the actual episode.
Dance mix.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I love that. Please. But yeah.
But yeah, go on.
I don't know what I was going to say. What? Yeah, there's good.
Are there any cliffhangers from the modern run that you think are terrible?
Ooh, I'd have to think.
Yeah, I would have to think about that as well. I do like Aliens of London.
That's a
because
classic.
Of what that does, the kind of carousel.
Amazing.
We've talked about it in the commentary, but the way it kind of handles 3 cliffhangers at once on this sort of merry-go-round. And
I can't.
Bad Wolf is an unusual one. The Empty Child is probably the best one of Series 1. And then going into Series 2, I think... I always found... I watched Rise of Cybermen and Age of Steel the other night.
I saw that clip on Twitter the other day. And
actually, the story itself was better than I thought it was.
Yes, I enjoyed that.
But I kind of think it's a bit weird that... I always thought it was a bit weird that they say we surrender, and instead of converting them, the Cybermen just decide to kill them there and then, because that feels a bit out of character.
It's strange, yeah.
But I think actually that's probably because Jake was shooting at them a moment before.
Yeah, fair point.
So they were burning. That was probably the reason for it. And then after that we have the Impossible Planet. I can't remember. The Impossible Planet is a weird one.
Yeah, I remember. So when I did my review of that ages ago, that's an odd cliffhanger. It's totally undermined next week, I think.
Yeah.
I said that in the review, but it's you've got this whole thing about it makes it look like there's something rising out of the pit, but it's just a camera angle, and then next week, oh look, it's empty. Well, what was the point? Like,
yeah, I can give you, thinking about it now, I can give you probably my two favourite cliffhangers. I mean, leaving the Stolen Earth out of this, the Stolen Earth deserves much more credit.
What?
But certainly my 2 favourite cliffhangers are Army of Ghosts and The End of Time Part 1. I think my favourite type of cliffhanger is, like they say in the documentary, it's the cliffhanger where you don't have the Doctor facing certain death, you don't have the monster appearing, although that can be good, but it's where the plot changes.
So
especially in today's world where you have sort of 2-parters. Under the Lake is actually a pretty good example of that.
Wait, no,
but
I'm sorry,
I
just
really like...
I've completely, my mind's gone blank. What happens at the end of Time Part 1? Oh, it's the heads, isn't it?
I'll talk about that in a moment, because basically,
right. Okay.
End of Time Part 1 and Army of Ghosts are brilliant because they give you one WTF moment.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I mean, that on its own would be enough, but they have to throw another one at you. So Army of Ghosts, just the Cybermen appearing would have been enough. And indeed, on the review tapes that were sent out, that was how it ended.
All right.
And it was a genuine open God moment when the Daleks appeared.
Yeah.
I mean, just when you think it can't get any madder. The same with End of Time. I mean, it's a bit, I always thought it was a bit weird where the whole of humanity becomes the master. That's kind of weird, although the visual effects are really good. But the idea is sound, because it's humanity losing its individualism and free will, the things that it cherishes the most.
So what's the second twist in End of Time?
Well, that's pretty bizarre, but then the Time Lords pop up without warning.
Oh, do they? Oh, maybe.
End of Time Part 1. Do you not remember it?
I don't remember that one very well, actually, despite me watching it to death back
But
when
I
it
have
came out,
thought
but-
of probably, I think, the worst cliffhanger of the modern era, and I'm sorry to keep bashing the Chibnall era. Well, no, actually, I'm not sorry. But
Right.
it's Ascension of the Cybermen, because it's utterly basically Gallifrey appears and the Master appears, and that's it. Whoa! It's
It
just
did make me excited to see him back,
you could
but
you could see, well, yeah, but you could see it coming a mile
Yeah.
off, because
Oh,
you
God,
knew
definitely.
Gallifrey was the big plot arc. You knew Gallifrey was going to be popping up again at some point.
oh,
And
actually, I
especially
tell you
with the
what,
quote appearing in the trailer, "That's my home planet." You knew that was going to appear at some
Yeah,
point, so it was no
yeah.
great surprise when Gallifrey happens to be the boundary.
yeah,
And it's like, it doesn't make any sense how Gallifrey is at the other end of the boundary. Apparently, it's never been there, and like the Master just says, "Oh, it just happened. It's a fluke." There's so many examples in that 2-part finale of like lack of logic, but anyway, that's a discussion for another time. We've already had that debate, but
many a times. But I'm
trying to think of other notable cliffhangers from the modern.
You were
run,
talking.
but
You were
go
talking about
ahead.
the Chibnall era, and it made me. It seems like ages away now, but on that fateful night when we sat on the 1st of January,
Yeah,
my God, Spyfall Part 1's ending was mind blowing. I remember watching that and
Yeah.
having a total freak out because the Master was back, and it's like obviously you can see it coming
think-
now, but it's the music when
Yeah.
he's revealed, and it's just sublime. I love it.
that to be fair is still a good moment. I had it spoiled to me in advance, but I think if you hadn't had it spoiled, then yes, it's a good moment. And it's still a good moment regardless of that.
Oh,
I think
sorry.
going back to what I was saying earlier. No, let me finish this. Sorry. Going back to what I was saying earlier, it kind of feels like it's missing something. Where the Doctor, I always thought that the way it should actually end, instead of the Doctor teleporting into that void, maybe it could have been a real WTF moment. Have the Doctor wake up and find that she's just a head in a jar. Now that would make it an iconic cliffhanger.
What
Just when
the
you think
hell?
You can't get. No, but when
I
you think
thought
you
this
can't
channel couldn't get any more.
madder,
I thought this channel couldn't get any more warped than our previous videos, but
But it's like the Master returns, but that shouldn't be enough. You should throw that kind of thing at it. And
right.
I mean, the cliffhanger turned out all right as it was, but would have been nice if the story went in that direction. But then that's another plot thread, and it was already juggling too many, that story. So,
Yeah.
what were you going
I
to
was going to
say?
say, on the subject of Master reveals, again, if it hadn't been spoiled, World Enough and Time's cliffhanger would have been so good. But they bloody
Oh, yeah.
put it in the trailer. That's so annoying. I mean, they had to because
I
it got
always-
leaked, but I would have that would have been such a good.
To be fair, though, we had a similar cliffhanger a few years before with Dark Water, and that was the first cliffhanger we'd had for quite a few years, because it was the first 2-parter. And I always liked how that one kind of felt like a sort of update in some ways, because you think it's ending when the Cyberman's eye comes towards you. A great shot, but then you get that lovely final shot of the tablet, Danny Pink, about to press
Oh
the
yeah,
button.
yeah, yeah.
Even though the kind of, I didn't notice the reflection of the kid at the start, and it's like the movement of the tablet to pick up the reflection does look a little bit unnatural, but I kind of liked that little detail.
I've never noticed
still.
that before.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at
I've
first,
never seen
but
that.
it was only reading Wikipedia that I realised you see his reflection
Huh.
in the iPad. But what other cliffhangers are there in the modern
I was
run?
thinking. This is another bad one. I was thinking. The Impossible Astronaut. I rather enjoy The Impossible Astronaut on the Day of the Moon. I watched it recently, but my God, the cliffhanger is so stupid. It's like, I hate like they do the whole slow motion thing, and it's just so awful. Like
Yeah, it kind of it pales in comparison to the big mind mucker that we had earlier on in Impossible Astronaut. But yeah, that was
if you pardon me going back to the classic series, one
Yeah.
that stands out to me, which is quite cool. Anyway, say what you want about the story, but Time in the Rani has got some bloody good cliffhangers. Time in the Rani, I think all of season 24, maybe forgive Dragonfire, but stuff like
Well,
Delta and the Bannerman and Paradise Towers,
yeah.
and especially
Who
Time in the
do-
Rani, great
yeah.
cliffhangers.
Who doesn't get a kick out of Bonnie Lamford floating around in a big CGI pink bubble?
That is amazing. Honestly, I look back at that, and it's...
I did actually happen to see today the cliffhanger to, I think it's Spearhead from Space Part 1, where the Doctor gets shot.
Oh.
I mean,
I love that.
that's dark, but also the kind of humour of it as well. You know, Oh, don't shoot, you stupid!
And then it cuts. I'd love to hear. I think I remember Review of Death making a joke about that. I'd love to hear what they would have said if they hadn't cut. It's amazing. And then the next week it's not there, so it makes you think. Wait, did they actually? Was that actually rehearsed, or did someone on set just say that? Like,
a lot of people. The Greatest Show in the Galaxy Part 1, where he goes, "Are we going in or aren't we?" A lot of people. I mean, I suppose that's a nice, unusual cliffhanger, but it's kind of it's a bit too abrupt.
I haven't watched Greatest Show in ages, so I can't.
And then, what other cliffhangers are there? Season
Survival.
26.
Survival's got some great cliffhangers, I think.
Yeah, Part 1 is the best one. Part 2 has a dodgy zoom effect. But
wait, which is Part 1 is the master reveal,
Part 1 is the master appearing. That's really good.
That's good. Part 2 is Ace. That does have a dodgy zoom, but it's good. That's a great. Honestly, Survival.
Still good regardless.
Survival is amazing. I remember we watched that one together
really
last year, didn't we? What a story.
Yeah.
Ghostlight. I think Ghostlight. Curse of Fenric. How can we not talk about Curse of Fenric's cliffhanger? It depends which version you're watching, but.
Well, I've always said that I prefer the director's cut.
Yeah, me too.
But then again, that's because I'm easily brainwashed by people, and Mark has convinced me
that
it's cut too tight. Yeah. I think more good than bad, ultimately. Are there any others?
Underwater Menace. I know I spoke about that one recently. It's terrible in the recap, but that's a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's really weird how sort of Troughton, you can clearly tell they filmed the recaps at a different point.
Yeah.
But they became much better at covering that up. Warriors of the Deep Part 1 does have a good cliffhanger.
I don't remember that.
I don't know. Part 1, basically, the Doctor drowns.
Oh, how did I forget that? That's an amazing cliffhanger. Face it, Tegan, he's drowned. He's been in the water for like 5 seconds. But yeah.
To be honest, I did enjoy Warriors of the Deep when I viewed it as a 10-year-old who hadn't yet developed any critical faculties.
You ought to review that one at some point, because I know you have a lot to say
about weird.
That.
I kind of enjoyed it for sort of nostalgia, because it was one of my first classic Doctor Who, so it was kind of interesting to see what it was like. So yeah, it'd be interesting for me to watch that again, actually. You've given me an idea for another video.
Excellent.
I
think...
And then... any other ones that in the modern run that I've missed? I'm just trying to think. Series 4.
I think there's some good ones in, like, is it? I don't know, because they're all disjointed from the episodes. But is it like at the end of Night Terrors, or is it closing time? The bit where River gets put in the suit. That's quite good.
But I think we should move on to, because I had kind of planned this to be 2 stages. The first stage, sort of talking about our favourite cliffhangers and what our favourite kinds of cliffhanger are, and I think we've established that.
Yeah.
The second thing I really wanted to talk about, and this is kind of an open-ended debate, and I would be interested in seeing what people think in the comments. This doesn't really have an easy answer.
If they've made it this far, because we'd like to ramble on, but carry on.
Yeah. But my question is, does the cliffhanger still have a place in today's landscape, or is it somewhat anachronistic?
I don't think so. Because look at, as abhorrent as the show is, if you take a look at something like EastEnders, which is just Satan's work, that relies. That's the point that everyone knows from that show. The thing everyone knows about that show is the ending, the cliffhangers, and I think
they're the most memorable moments. Like this Angie is a letter from my solicitor, and then Lucy Bill gets killed and stuff like that.
Is that a genuine thing?
No, they didn't happen at the same time.
I'm ashamed that you know those.
Separate cliffhangers.
Honestly, I had more faith in you.
Well, it was only the highest ratings BBC One ever got, but that was back in the mid-80s. So yeah, it's really sad that. I like watching Last of the Summer Wine, for God's sake, and that was before lockdown. What is wrong with me? But it's like, you mentioned EastEnders, you mentioned Bodyguard as well. That got a lot of media coverage. The TV show Bodyguard in the UK, there was a particular cliffhanger in a certain episode where it all goes wrong, and I won't go into spoilers, and that caused quite a lot. I didn't watch the show myself, but that caused quite a lot of speculation. So cliffhangers do still do that, but they seem to be kind of not so much they used to. The only reason Doctor Who did cliffhangers is that was because the TV world worked. Yeah. Because every single TV show was doing it, I think, Quatermass, but nowadays it doesn't quite feel like that. I think I might have got it wrong, because actually shows do still rely on the cliffhanger, not just soap operas, but shows like The 100, and sort of rely on that interconnected narrative that goes from one episode to the next.
I mean, it's obviously, like you mentioned, it's there to break it up, but like it's also there to keep people interested. And
Yeah.
like,
But the
I
thing
mean,
is,
I mean, if you look at something like Deadly Assassin, you're gonna be like, because I remember
Yeah.
someone in the documentary saying that they like the Doctor drowns. Like, you want to find out what happens next. Take a look at like
Yeah.
Remembrance of the Daleks. The cliffhangers on that are amazing, and like I just love
Yeah.
I love those cliffhangers where it's just the Seventh Doctor just. Like, at the end of every
Yeah.
episode, like, he happens to Delta and Bannerman as well. He just, like, makes a little judgment about his actions in the past 25 minutes. He's like,
yeah.
well, that went as good
So-
as be expected, didn't it? Woo! And then it's, yeah.
Yeah. So cliffhangers clearly still have a place if used correctly.
Yeah.
But kind of I've slightly lost my train of thought, but my problem sort of is, it feels nowadays, to me at least, partly like they're sort of there for nostalgic value. Although I do like the way they sort of do it now. Occasionally you get two parts, but mostly it's kind of these separate 45-minute stories where the pace is high, but you occasionally get the sort of more sort of sustained 90-minute stories, which are nice to have. I do like sitting down for 90 minutes to watch something. Maybe with a break halfway through for the loo, but it's kind of, nowadays it feels like they're doing it just for nostalgic value. I mean, when Chris Chibnall announced that the cliffhangers were coming back for Series 12 and we'd be having two-parters, it was kind of like, oh, they're an integral part of Doctor Who, but then again, he threw out pretty much a lot of stuff that we thought to be integral, like returning monsters and sustained narratives, because he used standalone stories at first. So even he couldn't really, even he didn't have the heart to throw out the cliffhanger, so clearly they have a lot of power. But it's kind of, The Magician's Apprentice is a great cliffhanger, but I was kind of thinking, because that was the first time cliffhangers really were back, and I kind of thought it with Dark Water, I kind of didn't really like waiting for a week. And I mean, it is supposed to be torturous. I have mixed feelings about cliffhangers. I feel that, on the one hand, they feel somewhat passé, because they feel like a relic from a bygone age, partly. But at the same time, it is nice to have that occasionally, and that kind of, it's nice to have more sustained stories that last longer than 45 minutes every once in a while, provided, of course, they're actually, good. But, they can be, and it's nice to have those every once in a while. And clearly, they still have some power. Or maybe a better way of ending it is what Tom Baker said in that documentary, Now Get Out of That, on the Terror of the Vervoids DVD that we mentioned earlier.
What did he say?
Probably the best cliffhanger of all. Is there life after death?
Oh. But yeah, that's probably a good
But yeah,
way
I don't know what to
end
make
it.
of cliffhangers. There are a lot of good ones, but you knew that already.
Sorry for rambling on so much, but
Thanks for watching for however many minutes this is.
yeah. Make sure to check out our other videos. Thank you again so much for the support on the channel recently. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Make sure to follow us on all the social medias and whatnot. But yeah, that was our discussion about cliffhangers. Do they work? Do they not? I guess I'll never know if I was right.